My son wrote, "I'm taking your house. My wife's family will live here now." I silently packed up and left. Then I withdrew all the money from his bank accounts. The next day, he was standing at my doorstep. "I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled." I had lived in that house for 37 years. Every corner held a memory. Michael's first steps in the hallway, the kitchen where I'd baked countless birthday cakes, the garden I'd tended since my husband passed. It was more than walls and a roof, it was my life. My son Michael had always been ambitious, driven, perhaps a bit too eager to please his wife, Jennifer. When he married her 3 years ago, I welcomed her warmly. I wanted to be the mother-in-law who didn't interfere, who gave space, who supported their new life together. They lived across town in a cramped apartment, saving for their future, or so they said. The first warning sign came 6 months ago. Jennifer started making comments during Sunday dinners. "This house is so big for just one person, don't you think, Margaret?" She'd smile sweetly, but her eyes were calculating. "Michael grew up here. It has so much sentimental value for him." I brushed it off. Young couples always dreamed of bigger spaces. Then came the financial troubles, or what they claimed were financial troubles. Michael called me one evening, his voice tight with stress. "Mom, we're struggling with the rent. Jennifer's hours got cut at work. Could you help us out, just for a few months?" What mother could refuse? I transferred $5,000 to his account, then another $3,000, then more. Each time Michael promised it was temporary. Each time, Jennifer's gratitude seemed hollow, performative. The visits became more frequent. They'd walk through my house as if appraising it, commenting on the potential of the space, how the neighborhood had really appreciated in value. Jennifer would run her fingers along the furniture, open closets, peek into rooms I rarely used. "You know, Margaret," she said one Sunday, standing in what used to be Michael's childhood bedroom, "you're getting older. Have you thought about what happens if you fall? Who would help you here, all alone?" I was 68, perfectly healthy, and still drove myself to book club every Thursday. "I'm fine, dear," I replied, keeping my voice even. But Michael was changing. My son, who used to call me every few days just to chat, now only contacted me when they needed something. His eyes wouldn't meet mine anymore. When I tried to discuss my concerns, he'd cut me short. "Mom, you don't understand the pressure we're under. Jennifer and I are building a life together. We need family support, not judgment." Last Tuesday, everything shattered. Michael arrived at my door without calling first. His face was set in a way I'd never seen before. Hard, distant, almost hostile. Jennifer stood behind him, arms crossed, a small smile playing at her lips. "Mom, we need to talk," Michael said, stepping inside without being invited. My stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. We've made a decision." He took a breath. "This house, it's too much for you. Jennifer and we need space for our growing family. We're going to move in here." I stared at him. "Move in? Michael, this is my home." "Was your home?" Jennifer interjected, her voice sharp. "Things change, Margaret. Family takes care of family, right? You've been telling us that for years." "I'm taking the house, Mom," Michael said flatly. "Jennifer's family will live here now. You'll need to find other arrangements." The words hit me like a physical blow. You're throwing me out? Of my own house? Don't be dramatic," Jennifer snapped. "You can rent an apartment. Plenty of seniors do it. This house is wasted on one person." I looked at my son, whom I'd raised alone after his father died, whom I'd put through college by working 2 jobs, whom I'd loved more than my own life. He wouldn't look at me. "Pack your things," he said quietly. "We're moving our stuff in this weekend." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I simply nodded, walked to my bedroom, and began packing a suitcase. My hands trembled, but my mind was crystal clear. Years ago, when Michael turned 18, I'd added him to my bank accounts, just in case of emergencies, I'd thought. Joint access. He could deposit, withdraw, anything. But so could I. That night, from my laptop in a motel room, I transferred every penny from Michael's accounts I'd helped fund over the years, into a new account he knew nothing about. $73,000. My money. The money I'd given him. The money that was supposed to help him build a life, not steal mine. The next morning, there was pounding on my motel room door. Michael stood there, his face purple with rage, Jennifer behind him, scrolling frantically on her phone. "What the hell did you do?" he shouted. I stood in the doorway of that cheap motel room, looking at my son's furious face, and something inside me hardened. This wasn't the boy I'd raised. This was a stranger, corrupted by greed and a manipulative woman. "I took back my money," I said calmly. "The money I gave you. The money you clearly don't need if you can afford to kick your mother out of her home." "That's theft!" Jennifer shrieked. "We'll call the police." "Please do," I replied. "They'll be very interested to hear how you're trying to illegally evict a homeowner from her property. Because that house, it's in my name. Only my name." Michael's face shifted from rage to confusion. "But you said—" "I said nothing. You assumed. You and your wife decided you could just take what was mine." I stepped back and began closing the door. "You want a war? You've got one." I shut the door on their protests and locked it, then sat down on the bed, my whole body shaking. The bravado had cost me every ounce of energy I had. What had I done? I'd just declared war on my own son. No, he'd declared war on me. I was just defending myself. For 3 days, I stayed in that motel room, barely eating, my mind racing through scenarios. My phone buzzed constantly. Michael, Jennifer, numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all. I needed time to think, to plan, to understand exactly what legal ground I stood on. The facts were clear. The house was solely in my name. My husband had left it to me when he passed, and I'd never added Michael to the deed. Why would I? He was supposed to inherit it eventually, after I was gone. Not now. Not like this. But the money, that was more complicated. The accounts were joint. Technically, I had every right to withdraw funds, but Michael would argue I'd given him that money as gifts. Would the law see it that way? I needed help. Real help. On the 4th day, I called my old friend Patricia. We'd known each other for 30 years, since our sons played Little League together. She'd been through her own family nightmare when her daughter tried to have her declared incompetent to seize her assets. "Margaret?" Her voice was warm with concern. "I've been worried about you. Michael called me asking if I'd seen you." "Patricia, I need advice. Legal advice." I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You need my daughter-in-law's firm," she finally said. "Rachel specializes in elder law and family property disputes. This is exactly the kind of case she handles." "I don't know if I can afford—" "Hush, let me make a call. Rachel owes me for about 1,000,000 favors." 2 hours later, I sat across from Rachel Chen in her downtown office. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and professional, taking notes as I recounted the story. "Mrs. Morrison," she said when I finished, "I'm going to be direct with you. Your son and daughter-in-law have no legal standing to evict you from your property. None. If they attempt to do so, they're committing an illegal act. However, the money situation is trickier." My heart sank. "I shouldn't have taken it." "I didn't say that. You had legal access to those accounts, but they could argue it was done in bad faith as retaliation. We need to frame this differently. She leaned forward. How much of that money was originally yours? All of it, I said. Every penny I transferred to him over the past 6 months. It came from my savings, my Social Security, my late husband's pension. Rachel smiled. Then we're not talking about theft. We're talking about recovering funds you'd loaned to your son. Do you have records of those transfers? Every single one. I keep meticulous financial records. Perfect. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to file a formal legal notice that you are the sole owner of your property, and any attempts to remove you will be met with legal action. Second, we're going to document that the funds you withdrew were repayment of loans made to your son. Third, and this is important, we're going to find out exactly what your son and daughter-in-law were planning. What do you mean? Margaret, people don't usually try to seize someone's home on a whim. They do research. They make plans. They might have already consulted with lawyers, looked into how to transfer property, maybe even forged documents. She met my eyes. We need to know what they're really up to. A chill went through me. Could my son really be that calculating? That cruel? How do we find out? Rachel pulled out a business card and slid it across the desk. I have an investigator I work with. He's discreet, thorough, and very good at finding paper trails. Financial records, legal consultations, emails. If they've left tracks, he'll find them. I looked at the card. This was really happening. I was hiring a private investigator to spy on my own son. But what choice did I have? Do it, I said. I need to know the truth. Rachel moved quickly. By Monday morning, a legal notice had been hand-delivered to Michael's apartment. I didn't see his reaction, but I could imagine it. The notice was clear and unambiguous. Margaret Morrison is the sole legal owner of the property at 847 Maple Drive. Any attempt to enter, occupy, or claim said property without her express written permission constitutes trespassing and will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. I'd also changed the locks. A locksmith came to the house on Sunday while I knew Michael and Jennifer were at her mother's place. Patricia had done some reconnaissance for me. Every door, every window lock, the garage. My house was mine again, at least physically. But I knew this was just the beginning. Rachel called me Tuesday afternoon. Margaret, can you come to my office? David found something. David Chen, the private investigator, no relation to Rachel despite the shared surname, was waiting when I arrived. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with an unassuming face that probably helped in his line of work. Mrs. Morrison, he said, shaking my hand, I've been tracking your son's activities for the past 5 days. What I found, it's worse than you thought. He opened his laptop and turned it toward me. Email exchanges filled the screen. Michael consulted with a lawyer 3 weeks ago, David explained. Not a reputable one, Gerard Hutchins, known for skirting ethical lines. Look at this email chain. I read, my blood running cold. Michael Morrison to Gerard Hutchins. My mother is becoming increasingly confused and forgetful. I'm worried about her ability to manage her finances and property. What are my options for taking over her affairs? I'm not confused, I whispered. I've never been confused. Keep reading, David said gently. Gerard Hutchins to Michael Morrison. If you can document mental incompetence, you could petition for guardianship. However, this requires medical evidence. Alternatively, if your mother has already added you to the property deed, you could argue shared ownership. Have you checked the deed recently? Michael Morrison to Gerard Hutchins. She hasn't added me, but she's old and trusts me completely. I'm thinking there might be another way. What if she decided to gift me the property? Could we draft documents for that? The words blurred. My own son, plotting to steal my home through legal manipulation. There's more, David said, scrolling down. Jennifer's emails are even more explicit. Jennifer had written to her sister, "Mike's finally growing a spine. We're taking the house next week. His mom won't fight it. She's too soft, too desperate to keep her precious son happy. Once we're in, we'll figure out the paperwork later. Possession is 9/10 of the law, right? Worst case, she stays in a nursing home. Best case, she signs everything over to make peace. Either way, that house is ours." I couldn't breathe. This wasn't just greed. This was premeditated, calculated. They'd planned to manipulate me, to use my love for my son as a weapon against me. "Mrs. Morrison?" Rachel's voice cut through my shock. "Are you okay?" "No," I said honestly, "but I will be. What can we do with this?" "Legally, this proves intent and planning. If they had succeeded in taking possession of your house, these communications demonstrate it was done knowingly and illegally. It's evidence of attempted fraud. But they didn't succeed," I said. "I stopped them." "Which is good. But Margaret, they're not going to give up. People who plan this carefully don't just walk away." Rachel exchanged a look with David. "There's something else." David pulled up another document. "Jennifer quit her job 2 months ago. It wasn't that her hours were cut. She voluntarily left. And Michael? He's been liquidating assets. His car, some investments. They've been preparing for something big." "What does that mean?" "It means they were expecting a significant cash influx," Rachel said carefully. "Margaret, I think they were planning to take your house and sell it immediately. The property is worth at least $600,000 in this market. They were going to evict you, take the house, flip it fast, and disappear with the money." The room tilted. My son wasn't just throwing me out. He was going to rob me of everything and vanish. "How long do we have?" I asked. "Before they try something else?" "They know you've lawyered up now," Rachel said. "They'll be more cautious, but also more desperate. The notice we sent made your position clear. They can't physically take the house, so they'll try other tactics." "Like what?" "Manipulation. They might try to convince you that this is all a misunderstanding, that they love you, that you're overreacting. If that doesn't work, they'll try intimidation, threats, harassment, maybe even filing false claims against you." Rachel's expression was grim. "Family law brings out the worst in people. And when money's involved, it gets ugly." "I can handle ugly," I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. "What I can't handle is betrayal going unpunished." Rachel smiled slightly. "Good. Because here's what we're going to do next. We're going to document everything, every contact they make, every threat, every lie. We're building a case not just to defend you, but to ensure they face consequences for what they've tried to do. And the money I took from his accounts? We're going to formally document it as loan repayment. I'll draft a statement outlining every transfer you made to Michael with dates and amounts. We'll show it was your money all along, and you simply took back what was yours." I looked at the emails on the screen again, at my son's words plotting against me. This was the point of no return. I couldn't unknow this. I couldn't pretend we'd ever go back to being a normal family. But maybe we'd never been a normal family. Maybe I'd just been blind. "Let's do it," I said. "All of it." Over the next week, I moved with purpose. Rachel filed formal loan repayment documentation with the county clerk's office, establishing a clear paper trail that the $73,000 had been my property. We also filed a restraining order petition, not yet approved, but on record, citing harassment and attempted property fraud. I returned to my house permanently. Walking through that door, knowing it was truly mine again, brought tears to my eyes. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage and determination. Michael and Jennifer weren't silent for long. They started with phone calls. Michael's voice on the voicemail. "Mom, please, we need to talk. You're destroying our family over a misunderstanding." Then Jennifer, her tone venomous. "You're a selfish old woman. Michael deserves that house. He's your son. How can you do this to him?" I saved every message. David had set up a system for me. Everything recorded, everything documented. Then came the visits. They showed up at my door 3 times in 1 week. I didn't answer. I watched through the window as they pounded on the door, as Jennifer's face twisted with fury, as Michael pleaded with the wood between us. On Thursday, they escalated. I came home from the grocery store to find Jennifer's car parked in my driveway. She and Michael were sitting on my front porch, along with an older woman I'd never met. Jennifer's mother, I assumed. "Margaret," Jennifer called out sweetly as I approached, bags in hand. "We brought reinforcements. This is my mother, Patricia. We thought maybe if we all talked calmly, we could resolve this silly dispute." "There's nothing to resolve," I said, fishing for my keys. "Please leave my property." Jennifer's mother stood up, her smile warm and practiced. "Now, Margaret, is it? I understand there's been some family tension, but surely we can work this out like adults. Jennifer tells me you've taken money that doesn't belong to you. That's theft, dear. We could involve the police, but we'd rather keep this civil." The audacity was breathtaking. They'd brought reinforcements to intimidate me. "Mrs. Morrison," I corrected coldly, "and the only theft being attempted here is your daughter and my son trying to steal my house. Now get off my porch before I call the actual police." "Mom!" Michael stepped forward, his voice breaking. "Mom, please, we're sorry. We handled this wrong. We were stressed about money, and we made a mistake. Can't we just talk?" For a moment, just a moment, I wavered. This was my son, my boy. Could I really do this? Then I remembered the emails. She's too soft, too desperate to keep her precious son happy. They were counting on this, counting on me to break. "No," I said. "We can't. You had your chance to be honest with me, to ask for real help. Instead, you plotted to rob me. Get off my property." Jennifer's mask dropped instantly. "You vindictive bitch, that money was ours. You gave it to us. I loaned it to you, and now I've taken it back, just like you tried to take my house." "We'll sue you," Jennifer shrieked. "We'll take everything. You'll end up on the street where you belong." Her mother grabbed her arm, trying to pull her back, but Jennifer was too far gone. She lunged toward me, and I stumbled backward. Michael grabbed Jennifer, holding her back, but the violence in her face was unmistakable. "You saw that," I said, looking directly at the elderly neighbor watering his roses 3 yards over. Mr. Patterson nodded slowly, phone already in hand. "She just assaulted me." "I didn't touch you," Jennifer screamed. "You tried, and we have witnesses." I pulled out my own phone and dialed Rachel's number. "I'm calling my lawyer, and unless you're gone in 30 seconds, I'm calling the police too." They left, but not before Jennifer spat on my porch and Michael gave me a look of such hatred that I barely recognized him. I stood there, shaking, until their car disappeared down the street. Then I went inside, locked every lock, and collapsed on the couch. Mr. Patterson knocked on my door 20 minutes later. "Mrs. Morrison? I recorded the whole thing on my phone. If you need it for court, you just say the word." "Thank you," I managed. "Thank you so much." That night, Rachel called. The restraining order was approved, emergency basis given the attempted assault. They can't come within 500 feet of you or your property. "Good," I said, but I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted, hollowed out. "Margaret, take a few days. Rest. Let the legal system work. You've done everything right. Now you need to recover." She was right. The adrenaline that had carried me through the past 2 weeks was gone, leaving only bone-deep weariness. I spent the next 3 days barely leaving the house, sleeping 12 hours a night, letting Patricia bring me casseroles and sit with me while we watched old movies. "You're doing the right thing," she told me. "I know it doesn't feel like it, but you are." I wanted to believe her. But late at night, alone in that big house, I wondered, had I lost my son forever? And was winning worth that price? The restraining order bought me 10 days of silence. 10 days where I could breathe without looking over my shoulder, without jumping at every sound. 10 days where I started to feel like myself again. Stronger, clearer, no longer the confused woman they'd tried to paint me as. Then the letters started arriving. The first one came on a Monday, delivered by regular mail. Michael's handwriting on the envelope. Inside, 3 pages of apologies, explanations, justifications. He was sorry. He'd been under so much stress. Jennifer had been pushing him. He'd never meant to hurt me. He loved me. "Could we please just sit down, just the two of us, and talk?" I filed it with Rachel's office and didn't respond. The second letter arrived Wednesday. This one was from Jennifer's mother, Patricia. She understood I was upset, but surely I could see that young couples struggled in this economy. Her daughter and Michael were good people who'd made a mistake. Couldn't I find it in my heart to forgive? Family was forever, wasn't it? I filed that one too. Friday brought a card, a sympathy card, of all things. Inside, Jennifer had written, "I'm so sorry for your loss, the loss of your relationship with your son. It doesn't have to be this way. We can start over. Let's meet for coffee. Please." The manipulation was so transparent, it would have been funny if it weren't so insulting. They thought I was stupid. They thought I was weak. They were wrong. But the letters didn't stop. They came every few days, each one more elaborate than the last. Michael sent photos of his childhood, us at Disney World, his high school graduation, the day he got into college. Nostalgia as a weapon. Jennifer sent articles about the importance of family unity, about the dangers of elderly isolation, about forgiveness and second chances. I read them all with cold detachment and filed every single one. "They're trying to wear you down," Rachel said during one of our weekly check-ins. "It's a common tactic. When aggression doesn't work, they switch to sympathy and guilt. Don't engage." "I won't," I promised. But the community was engaging. Word had spread through my neighborhood about what Michael had tried to do. Small towns talk, especially when it involves family drama. I'd expected judgment. Maybe people would think I was being too harsh, too unforgiving. Instead, I found support. Mrs. Chen from book club showed up with soup. "My son tried something similar with my sister," she said. "Don't you dare cave. You teach him now or he'll do it again." Mr. Patterson organized a neighborhood watch specifically for my house. "Any sign of trouble? We call the police immediately. You're not alone in this, Margaret." Even Father Michael from the church I occasionally attended stopped by. "I heard you're going through a difficult time," he said gently. "I want you to know that protecting yourself isn't unforgiving. Sometimes love means setting boundaries, even with our children." Their support fortified me. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cruel. I was protecting myself from people who had proven they would hurt me. The breaking point came 3 weeks after the restraining order. I was at the grocery store when I saw Michael. He wasn't supposed to be within 500 feet of me, but he maintained the distance, standing at the far end of the produce section, clearly visible. He just looked at me. Didn't approach, didn't speak, just stood there with the saddest expression I'd ever seen on his face. I paid for my groceries and left. He followed at a distance to my car, never breaking the restraining order, but making his presence known. As I loaded my bags, he called out, loud enough to hear, but not aggressive. "Mom, please, I'm begging you. Jennifer left me. She took everything and left. I have nothing. I need help. I need my mother." I looked at him across the parking lot. He looked thinner, haggard, his clothes wrinkled. Part of me, the mother part, wanted to rush to him, to fix everything, to make it all okay. But I remembered the emails, the planning. The cruelty. Was this another manipulation? Or had Jennifer really abandoned him once the money and house prospects disappeared? You violated the restraining order by being here, I said calmly. If you need help, call legal aid. I'm not your solution anymore. I got in my car and drove away, watching him shrink in my rearview mirror. At home, I called Rachel immediately. He approached me at the store. Did he come within 500 feet? No, he stayed outside the limit but made sure I saw him. He says Jennifer left him. Rachel was quiet for a moment. David's been monitoring their finances. Jennifer did leave, filed for divorce last week, claimed she married him under false pretenses regarding his financial situation. She's already moved in with a new boyfriend, someone with actual money. So it was real. Jennifer had used my son and discarded him when the scheme failed. Part of me felt vindicated, but another part, the mother part, felt sick. What do? I asked. What do you want to do? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I want him to face consequences, real consequences. I want him to understand what he did was wrong, not just that it didn't work out for him. Then stay the course, Rachel said firmly. He made his choices. Now he lives with them. I hung up and sat in the quiet of my house, and felt for the first time truly at peace with my decision. They came on a Tuesday evening, exactly 1 month after the restraining order had been issued. The doorbell rang just after dinner, and when I looked through the peephole, I saw them. Michael and Jennifer, standing together looking calm and composed. Behind them, a man in a suit I didn't recognize. I didn't open the door. Mom, Michael called through the wood. Mom, we're not here to fight. The restraining order expires tomorrow. We just want to talk. We brought a mediator, Dr. Stevens. He's a family therapist. Please, give us 1 hour. Jennifer's voice followed, smooth and practiced. Margaret, I owe you a tremendous apology. I've done a lot of soul searching and I realize I handled everything wrong. I want to make amends. We both do. I stood there, heart pounding, mind racing. Rachel had warned me about this. The restraining order was temporary, and they knew it. This was their last attempt before it expired, their final play. I have nothing to say to you, I called through the door. Mom, please, Michael's voice cracked. I'm your son. Don't I deserve a chance to explain, to apologize properly? The man in the suit stepped forward. Mrs. Morrison, my name is Dr. Richard Stevens. I'm a licensed family therapist specializing in intergenerational conflict resolution. I'm here as a neutral party. All I ask is that you hear them out. If you're not satisfied after 1 hour, I'll leave with them, and they've promised not to contact you again. It sounded reasonable, professional, safe, but I remembered Jennifer's emails. She's too soft, too desperate to keep her precious son happy. I'll give you 10 minutes, I finally said. Through the door. Say what you need to say and then leave. There was a pause. Then Michael spoke. We can't do this through a door, Mom. This needs to be face-to-face. Real conversation. Please. Then you have nothing to say. Fine, Jennifer's voice, sharp with frustration. Fine, have it your way. Michael, tell her. Mom, I made terrible mistakes. I let Jennifer convince me that we deserved your house, that you owed us because you were our family. I see now how wrong that was. I betrayed your trust. I hurt you. And I'm asking, begging for forgiveness. And the money, I asked. The $73,000 you stole? I didn't steal. He caught himself. I mean, yes, you're right. We took advantage. But Mom, we need that money. Jennifer's pregnant. We're going to have a baby. Your grandchild. Can you really turn your back on your grandchild? The words hit like a hammer. Pregnant, a grandchild. Everything I'd ever wanted. But I'd heard Jennifer tell her sister she'd left Michael. So who was lying now? Congratulations, I said flatly. I hope you find a way to support your child, but it won't be with my money or my house. You heartless bitch, Jennifer exploded, the mask finally cracking completely. There is no baby. There never was. But would it have mattered? Would anything matter? You're so caught up in your revenge that you can't see Michael is suffering. Jennifer, stop, Michael tried. No, she needs to hear this. Jennifer pounded on the door. You're a bitter, selfish old woman. Michael wasted his whole life trying to please you, and this is how you repay him? By destroying him over money and a house? What kind of mother are you? The kind who won't be manipulated anymore, I said. Dr. Stevens, if you're really a therapist, you should recognize emotional abuse when you hear it. I suggest you leave before I call the police. This isn't over, Jennifer screamed. You think you've won? You've won nothing. That money is ours. That house is ours. We'll get lawyers. We'll prove you're mentally incompetent. We'll take everything. Good luck with that, I replied. I've been documenting every threat you've made, every lie you've told, and unlike you, I actually have lawyers who know what they're doing. Michael's voice came through, defeated. Mom, please. Don't do this. She's angry. But she doesn't mean... She means every word, I interrupted. And so did you when you planned to steal my house, when you called me confused and incompetent, when you plotted with that lawyer to have me declared mentally unfit. Yes, Michael, I know about all of it. Every email, every plan, every lie. Silence. Then Michael's voice, small and broken. You weren't supposed to know about that. But I do. And now I know exactly who you've become. The restraining order expires tomorrow, but I'm filing for a permanent one. And if you come near me or my property again, I will prosecute. Do you understand? You're going to regret this, Jennifer hissed. When you're old and dying in some nursing home, alone, with no one who loves you, remember this moment. Remember that you chose money over family. I chose myself over people who tried to destroy me, I corrected. There's a difference. Now leave. I heard furious whispering, then footsteps retreating. Through the window, I watched them argue in the driveway. Jennifer gesturing wildly, Michael's shoulders slumped, Dr. Stevens, if that was even his real name, standing awkwardly to the side. Finally, they got in their car and drove away. I stood in my entryway, my whole body trembling. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial Rachel's number. They came, I said when she answered. They tried to manipulate me, claimed Jennifer was pregnant, then admitted it was a lie, then threatened me again. Did you record it? Every word. The Ring doorbell camera caught everything. Perfect. Email me the footage. We're filing for that permanent restraining order first thing tomorrow morning. Margaret. They just handed us everything we needed. After I hung up, I sat on my couch in the dark, my heart still racing. The fear was real. The fear that they might actually find a way to hurt me, to take something else from me. But beneath the fear was something stronger. Resolve. They'd shown their true faces tonight. No more masks, no more pretending. And I'd stood my ground. They'd tried to break me. They'd failed. The hearing for the permanent restraining order was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Rachel had filed additional motions, a civil suit for attempted fraud, harassment, and emotional distress. Michael and Jennifer had hired a lawyer, a younger man named Brandon Cross, who specialized in creative family law solutions, according to his website. I spent those 3 weeks preparing. Rachel and David had built an airtight case. Emails, text messages, financial records, recorded threats, witness testimony from Mr. Patterson and others. We had everything. What I hadn't expected was for Michael and Jennifer to bring their own evidence. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined, more like a conference room than the dramatic spaces you see on TV. Judge Patricia Hendricks presided, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. I sat with Rachel at one table. Michael and Jennifer sat with Mr. Cross at another. The tension was suffocating. Let's begin, Judge Hendricks said. Mrs. Morrison, you're petitioning for a permanent restraining order against your son, Michael Morrison, and his wife, Jennifer Morrison. You're also bringing civil claims of attempted fraud and harassment. Mr. Cross, your clients are contesting these claims? Yes, Your Honor, Cross said smoothly. My clients believe Mrs. Morrison has severely mischaracterized a family disagreement. They're prepared to demonstrate that Mrs. Morrison has been experiencing cognitive decline and has, unfortunately, become paranoid and delusional about their intentions. My blood ran cold. This was it, the incompetence play. Rachel stood immediately. Your Honor, we anticipated this defense. We have medical records showing Mrs. Morrison has no cognitive impairment whatsoever. She's been examined by 2 independent physicians in the past month, both of whom found her fully competent. Doctors can be fooled, Cross countered, especially in brief examinations. My clients have lived with the reality of Mrs. Morrison's declining mental state for years. Then let's look at evidence rather than speculation, Judge Hendricks said dryly. Miss Chen, present your case. Rachel methodically walked the judge through everything. The timeline of Michael and Jennifer's requests for money, the emails plotting to take the house, the consultation with the unethical lawyer, Jennifer's message about possession being 9/10 of the law, the attempted eviction, the harassment after the restraining order. Cross objected repeatedly, claiming the emails were taken out of context, that the consultation was hypothetical, that Michael and Jennifer were simply exploring their options as concerned children. Then Rachel played the doorbell camera footage from 3 weeks ago. The courtroom filled with Jennifer's voice. There is no baby. There never was. Her screaming threats, her admission that they'd lied, her vicious attack on my character. Michael's quiet admission, you weren't supposed to know about that. Judge Hendricks' expression turned to stone. Mr. Cross, she said quietly, do you have an explanation for that recording? Cross scrambled. Your Honor, my clients were under extreme emotional duress. Mrs. Morrison had stolen $73,000 from them, money that she had given them and then withdrawn from jointly held accounts, Rachel interjected. Money that was originally hers. We have complete documentation. Furthermore, Rachel continued, Mrs. Morrison's house has always been solely in her name. Her son and daughter-in-law had no legal claim to it whatsoever. Their attempt to evict her was criminal trespassing at best, attempted theft at worst. Cross tried another angle. Your Honor, Michael Morrison was added to his mother's bank account specifically so he could help manage her finances. She's 68 years old, living alone. I'm 68, not deceased, I spoke up, my voice steady. I manage my own finances perfectly well. I have for 40 years. Judge Hendricks looked at me. Mrs. Morrison, I'd like to hear from you directly. In your own words, what happened? I took a breath and told her everything. Not the legal version, but the human version. The son I'd raised alone after my husband died. The sacrifices I'd made to put him through college. The love I'd given him unconditionally for 35 years. And how he'd repaid that love by plotting to steal my home, by trying to have me declared incompetent, by allowing his wife to manipulate him into becoming someone I no longer recognized. They didn't want a relationship with me, I said. They wanted my assets, and when I wouldn't cooperate in my own robbery, they tried to destroy me. Michael had been staring at the table throughout most of the hearing, but now he looked up, his eyes meeting mine for the first time in weeks. Mom, he started. Don't, Jennifer hissed, grabbing his arm, but Michael pulled away from her. No, no more. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, I did all of this. Everything she said. The emails, the planning, the lawyer consultation. It was all real. I convinced myself I deserved her house because I'm her son. Because she'd given me so much money already. I thought. His voice broke. I thought she owed me. But she didn't. She doesn't. I betrayed her, and I don't. I don't know how to fix it. Michael, shut up, Jennifer snapped. You're going to ruin everything. Everything's already ruined, Michael shouted, startling everyone. We lost, Jennifer. We lost because we were wrong. My mother did nothing but love me, and I treated her like... He couldn't finish. Judge Hendricks was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. I've been a family court judge for 20 years. I've seen children steal from parents, parents steal from children, families destroy each other over money and property. But rarely have I seen such premeditated, calculated cruelty disguised as family concern. She looked directly at Michael and Jennifer. You didn't just try to take Mrs. Morrison's house. You tried to take her dignity, her agency, her sense of reality. You planned to have her declared incompetent, a legal move that would have stripped her of her rights as a human being. And you did this to a woman who had given you nothing but love and support. Jennifer's face was white. Michael was openly crying. The permanent restraining order is granted, Judge Hendricks said. Michael and Jennifer Morrison are prohibited from contacting Margaret Morrison in any way, from coming within 1,000 feet of her or her property, and from making any claims on her assets or estate. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for possible criminal charges of attempted fraud and elder abuse. Your Honor, Cross tried, I'm not finished. Mrs. Morrison, your civil suit will proceed. Based on what I've seen today, I encourage you to pursue it fully. These people need to face real consequences for their actions. She banged her gavel. We're adjourned. The civil trial took place 4 months later. In that time, the district attorney had indeed filed criminal charges against Michael and Jennifer, attempted elder abuse, fraud, and conspiracy to commit theft. Jennifer faced additional charges for making false statements and threatening behavior. Michael took a plea deal. He pled guilty to attempted fraud, received 2 years of probation, and was ordered to pay restitution. He also had to perform 500 hours of community service and undergo mandatory counseling. Jennifer refused to plea. She insisted she'd done nothing wrong, that I had manipulated the legal system, that she was the real victim. Her trial was scheduled for the following year, but for the civil case, she had to appear. Rachel had expanded our lawsuit to include not just the attempted theft of my house, but also claims for emotional distress, defamation, for Jennifer's statements about my mental competence, and punitive damages. We were suing for $300,000. We probably won't get the full amount, Rachel warned me, but we'll get enough, and more importantly, we'll get vindication. The civil trial was shorter than the criminal hearing. Judge Reynolds, a no-nonsense man in his 50s, heard Rachel present our case with clinical precision. The emails, the recordings, the witness testimonies, medical reports confirming my perfect mental health, financial records showing how I'd supported Michael for years only to have him plan to rob me. Jennifer's lawyer tried to paint her as simply a concerned daughter-in-law, but Rachel dismantled that narrative with ease. Concerned daughter-in-law? Rachel repeated during cross-examination. Mrs. Morrison, you told your sister, and I quote, "Once we're in, we'll figure out the paperwork later. Worst case, she stays in a nursing home." Does that sound like concern for Mrs. Morrison's well-being? Jennifer's face flushed. That was taken out of context. What context makes forcing someone into a nursing home so you can steal their house acceptable? We weren't, Jennifer stammered. You also told your sister that Margaret Morrison was too soft, too desperate to keep her precious son happy, and that you would exploit that weakness. Is that concern? I was venting. Everyone vents to their family. Venting about how to exploit and rob an elderly woman? Jennifer had no answer. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, the verdict was unanimous, in my favor on all counts. The award, $240,000 in damages, plus all legal fees. But the money wasn't the real victory. The real victory came 2 weeks later when I received a letter from Michael's probation officer. As part of his community service, Michael had been assigned to work at a senior center, helping elderly residents with their financial planning and paperwork, under strict supervision, of course. The irony was almost poetic. The letter included a note Michael had written, which his probation officer was forwarding with his permission. "Mom, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, and I'm not. I just wanted you to know that working at the senior center has shown me what I almost did to you. These people, they're vulnerable, trusting, and their children often take advantage of that. I see now that I was becoming one of those children, one of the predators. I'm sorry doesn't cover it, and I know I can never make this right. But I'm trying to be better. For what it's worth, I'm proud that you stood up to me. You taught me one final lesson, that love doesn't mean letting people destroy you. I hope someday, maybe years from now, you might be willing to talk. But I understand if that day never comes. I love you. I'm sorry. Michael." I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer and didn't respond. Maybe someday I would. Maybe someday Michael would actually become the man he claimed he was trying to be. But that wasn't my responsibility anymore. I'd spent 35 years being his mother, sacrificing for him, loving him unconditionally. Now I was choosing myself. Jennifer's fate was less ambiguous. Her criminal trial resulted in a guilty verdict on multiple counts. She was sentenced to 18 months in prison and ordered to pay restitution to me as well. Her modeling career, she'd fancied herself an influencer, was destroyed. Her social media accounts, once filled with carefully curated photos of her perfect life, were now flooded with comments about her being a con artist and elder abuser. She filed for divorce from Michael while in prison. He didn't contest it. I sold my house 6 months after the trial ended, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Too many bad memories, too much pain associated with those walls. I sold it for $650,000, even more than David had estimated. With that money and the settlement from the lawsuit, I bought a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in a retirement community in Arizona. Not a nursing home, as Jennifer had envisioned for me, but an active adult community full of people my age who hiked, played tennis, took classes, and lived vibrant, independent lives. I made new friends. I joined a ceramics class and discovered I had a talent for pottery. I started volunteering at a legal aid clinic, helping other elderly people protect themselves from financial exploitation. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. And I did it all on my own terms. A year after I moved to Arizona, I barely recognized my old life. The woman who'd lived in that big, empty house, desperate for her son's approval, seemed like a stranger. I'd shed that skin and grown into someone stronger, clearer, unafraid. My days in the retirement community were full in a way they'd never been before. I woke early to hike the desert trails with my neighbor, Dorothy, a former marathon runner who could outpace women half her age. We'd watch the sunrise over the red rocks, and I'd feel grateful just to be alive. 3 mornings a week, I taught a financial literacy class at the community center. I used my own story, carefully anonymized but honest about family financial abuse. The classes were always full. "You saved my life," one woman told me after class. Her son had been pressuring her to refinance her paid-off house. After my class, she'd consulted a lawyer instead. He was going to take everything. Those moments made everything worthwhile. I'd also started dating. His name was Robert, a widower and retired teacher who lived 3 doors down. We'd met at a community barbecue, bonded over mystery novels, and had been inseparable ever since. Just companionship, laughter, and someone who actually valued my company. "You're glowing," Patricia told me during one of our video calls. "Arizona agrees with you." "Freedom agrees with me," I corrected. "Turns out I like making my own choices." Meanwhile, news filtered back about Michael and Jennifer's lives. Patricia had a way of hearing things, and occasionally she'd update me, always watching to see if it upset me. It didn't. I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not sadness, just distant closure. Michael was working 2 jobs, warehouse and night shifts at a gas station, trying to pay off his legal debts in a studio apartment on the bad side of town. His criminal record made professional employment nearly impossible. Word of what he'd done had spread. People didn't want to associate with someone who'd tried to rob his own mother. He'd become a cautionary tale. Remember Michael Morrison? That's what happens when you let greed destroy your family. "He looks awful," Patricia had said. "I saw him at the grocery store. He's aged 10 years. "That's what consequences look like," I'd replied calmly. Jennifer's situation was even worse. After serving 13 months, she'd emerged to find herself completely unemployable. Her social media infamy had spread far beyond our town. She'd been featured in articles about elder financial abuse, her face and name plastered everywhere as an example of what not to do. She'd tried to rebrand herself, create new accounts under different names, but people always found out. The internet never forgot. Last Patricia had heard, Jennifer was living with her mother and working part-time at a fast food restaurant. Her dreams of being an influencer, of living in a beautiful house, of having the perfect life she'd tried to steal from me, were completely dead. "Does it bother you," Patricia asked once, "that they're struggling so much?" I thought about it honestly. No, they made choices. They tried to destroy an elderly woman's life for money. They deserve to struggle. You're not worried about Michael? Michael is 35 years old. He's an adult who committed crimes. I'm not responsible for rescuing him from consequences. I did that for years, and look what it got me. The truth was, I'd built a life I genuinely loved. I had friends who valued me, activities that fulfilled me, a partner who respected me, and complete control over my future. My new friends didn't know me as Michael's mother, or that poor woman whose son tried to rob her. They knew me as Margaret, the woman who made beautiful pottery, who told funny stories, who organized the best book club discussions. I'd reclaimed myself and discovered that I liked who I was when I wasn't being defined by people who'd hurt me. One evening, sitting on my balcony watching the Arizona sunset, Robert beside me, I realized something profound. I was grateful that Michael and Jennifer had shown their true colors before it was too late. Grateful that I'd found the strength to fight back. Grateful for every hard lesson that had led me to this moment. "What are you thinking about?" Robert asked. "How lucky I am," I said honestly, and I meant it. Here's what I learned. Family isn't an excuse for abuse. Love doesn't mean letting people destroy you. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is setting boundaries, even when it breaks your heart. I was 68 when my son tried to steal my home. I'm 70 now, living my best life. It's never too late to choose yourself. If someone you love is trying to exploit you, remember this. You deserve dignity. You deserve safety. You deserve to protect what you've built. What would you have done in my place? Would you have fought back or given in? Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there find their strength.